Welcome into Eye on Northeast Kansas, the podcast. I'm your host, Melissa Bruner. This is where we recap some of our top guests from the past week that appeared on Eye on Northeast Kansas, the TV show. It comes to you live, 4 o'clock Central Time, Monday through Friday from our WIBW TV studios in the great city of Topeka, the capital city of Kansas. We are drawing close to the end of the year, and the end of the year is a good time for reflection, and that includes among some of our community and state leaders that we have on the show. Among them, Tony Mattivi, the director of the Kansas Bureau of Investigation. He is nearing 1 year on the job, and it has been a very busy year. He sat down with us to reflect on some of his achievements and, of course, the work that still remains. Director Mattivi, thank you for being here.
Pleasure to be here, Melissa.
We'll get into the fun facts of the year in a bit because I want to share with everyone the fun fact that you just shared with me. When you heard that we also were going to be talking about the Nutcracker today, you were once in a performance of the Nutcracker.
I wasn't ready for public disclosure of that today, Melissa, but that's okay. I once was in the Nutcracker with both of my daughters and my son back in 2007. I played a dancing parent in the parent scene.
So a very special time of year for you, thinking of all these traditions.
It really is, yeah. I love that production.
This is also a good time of the year to reflect on things that have happened, and it has been a busy year for you, taking over as director of the Kansas Bureau of Investigation. Right. How busy has the agency been this year?
Oh, it's been a whirlwind. We always have a lot going on, but it is such a wonderful organization filled with tremendously capable people who've been very warm and welcoming to me. So it's been, although a busy year, a really great year.
What sorts of stats do you have? How many cases have you been handling? How many investigations are there underway?
So the main thing that we've been working on this year, in addition to our regular investigative priorities, which are violent crime, public corruption, crimes against children, fentanyl has been a huge issue for us. And we've devoted a lot of resources toward targeted enforcement on fentanyl. Two of our major accomplishments this year was we formed, for the first time in the history of the KBI, we formed a canine team. We have 4 drug sniffing law enforcement canines and 1 electronic sniffing law enforcement canine now at the KBI. In the 6 months that they've been in operation, they have trained 1,320 hours. They were instrumental in a huge drug bust we had 2 weeks ago in Wichita, where they helped us intercept a load of 60,000 fentanyl pills, 4.2 pounds of fentanyl powder, and 59 pounds of crystal meth. So our canine program has been huge. And then we've been working along with our partners at the Highway Patrol and Homeland Security on what we call the Joint Fentanyl Impact Team, JFIT. Again, targeted enforcement exclusively focusing on the fentanyl problem, and they have been hugely successful as well.
As you've studied the fentanyl issue and really gotten into the nuts and bolts of it, what can we expect, if anything, in terms of any legislation as we head into January and the legislature reconvening? Are there any gaps in the law? Are there any holes that you see we could fill?
Yeah, so we need one little tweak to the statute. One of the statutes doesn't deal with one specific aspect of manufacturing, and we need to fix that. The main thing from our perspective is we're going to be asking the legislature for more resources to tackle this problem. We've spoken with them. They know what a huge issue it is, and they know that we need help when it comes to having the resources that we need to really go after the cartels that are trafficking this drug.
One big case, one big investigation that I'm sure has been taking up a lot of your time these past couple months is the cyber incident, the cybersecurity incident with the Kansas courts. Where does that investigation stand, and what can you share with us in terms of what you found?
That is very much an ongoing investigation. We have an agent assigned to it. Because it's an ongoing investigation, I just can't talk with you about the details of it. I know that we will be able to one day. And I look forward to sharing that, but I can't right now.
Any sort of a timeline as far as, I think the key question people have is, was their information compromised?
Yeah, so again, we can't go into any details about the investigation or what happened because that's something that we use on a daily basis to try to crack this case.
Okay, well, we will look for those updates when you're able to give them. Besides fentanyl, what other types of opportunities or concerns do you hope to pursue in the year ahead?
In the year ahead, I'm really excited about a couple of projects we have going on. We're partnering with Pittsburgh State University to build a regional crime center and forensic laboratory on the campus of Pittsburgh State. Law enforcement down there is woefully underserved right now. The public is underserved by the facilities that are available down there. law enforcement needs more and better facilities, so we're teaming up with the university.
Will it be similar to what's on Washburn's campus?
That's our model.
Okay.
Right, we're modeling it after the very successful project that Attorney General Schmidt and KBI Director Thompson put on the campus at Washburn University. It's a great model for collaboration between academia and law enforcement, and we're going to try to replicate it down at Pittsburgh. We're going to ask the legislature to help us fund a child victim task force down in that area as well. We've had one in the northeast part of the state for a long time, and they've been incredibly successful. We're staffing one up in the west region right now, and we're going to ask the legislature to close the loop for us and give us the funding to put one in the southeast part of the state. We need, this is kind of dry, but we really need to fix the laboratory management system. It's the software that's been in place since the Graves administration. We really need to upgrade that. And then beyond that, fentanyl. Fentanyl. It's becoming a huge problem. It's literally killing Kansas kids every day, and we've got to keep devoting resources to it.
Well, we appreciate your updates on what have been the ongoing efforts there. Director Mattivi, thank you so very much. Happy holidays and have a great new year.
Thank you.
We'll catch up with you then.
Merry Christmas.
We will continue to follow along with Director Mattivi the progress on his priorities. And of course, as you heard, he could not comment on that investigation into the cybersecurity incident involving the Kansas judicial system's computer systems. But one person that has been dealing with some of the fallout and frustrations created by that is Shawnee County District Attorney Mike Kagay. He also took some time to join us and look back at what has been a busy year for himself as well. Not only was the DA's office and really prosecutors and courts across the state continuing to try to catch up with the backlog that they've been dealing with since the pandemic and some of the shutdowns that were created because of that in the courts. Also now, as they were making progress, they also were dealing with the city of Topeka having a record number of homicides. That meant a lot of major cases finding their way into the DA's office as authorities made arrests in those cases. And then we end the year with this computer system issue. So that, of course, has been making things a bit more difficult for attorneys across the board, whether they're on the defense side, the prosecutors, and the judges' offices, all having a very tough time with that. So he talked to us about the impact it's been having and how his office is working through it. Appreciate you being here and taking a moment.
Thank you, Melissa.
It has been a busy year, just sheerly, I would imagine, by case volume. Is that just on the surface, or are you truly seeing a lot more coming through your office this year?
I think we're seeing more referrals to the office. I get the sense that generally people are more frustrated right now for some reason. There just seems to be a little bit more of that angst that's going around. So I think we've seen an uptick maybe across the board. Of
course, one of the things we've been following is the high number of homicides in the city of Topeka, and among those, the Zoe Felix murder. Michael Cherry, the suspect in that case, did make a court appearance yesterday, a motions hearing that we talked about. How is that case moving forward? What's the significance of having a court proceeding take place in this?
So anytime we have very serious charges, and certainly in this case we have serious charges, the case is going to take a little bit of time to work its way through the system. And at this stage, we're very early. This was the first court hearing, as you said. What we're talking about are primarily procedural issues, evidentiary issues, and then constitutional arguments that are always framed in these cases. And that takes time. That takes time for our defense to file their motions. We file our response, we make our arguments. I'm sure there'll be another round of motion hearings. But right now our next setting is not until March.
Capital cases are certainly rare in the state of Kansas, especially in Shawnee County as well. So what about this case makes it unique, and what kind of evidence makes it rise to those standards?
Well, I can't really comment on the specific evidence in the case, right? I can talk about the nature of the charges. We've done that before. It is a capital case. We can talk about the allegations in general, and we did that when we filed them. And there are specific reasons that I'm not able to discuss the evidence with you at this point.
And that has to do with things that have to do with ethical standards. The judge has reinforced those in the hearing this week?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have what's called under Rule 3.8, which is the ABA Model Code of Conduct for attorneys. There's something called Rule 3.8, which is the special responsibilities of a prosecutor. And that has been adopted by the Kansas courts. Here it's labeled as Rule 240. And essentially it says, don't say anything that can heighten public condemnation of the accused. So what I am able to do is I'm able to explain the nature and extent of the actions that I'm taking as the prosecutor. They don't spell everything out for you, but those are the bright lines. So in broad terms, I can talk about something like, yes, we had a motions hearing yesterday and we talked generally about these issues, but I can't discuss the specific evidence in the case and share that with you right now.
Which is a good explanation to have sometimes why you are unable to answer questions, perhaps as in-depth as people might like or appreciate.
Right.
So computer system, I want to get an update from you on that. Are we still filing things on paper in Shawnee County?
We are.
How has that been impacting your work? And this, of course, is the cybersecurity incident on the Kansas Office of Judicial Administration, which is the statewide computer system, every county except Johnson County. How is this impacting your work?
Well, it's slowing things down. It's hampering our ability to move through cases efficiently because we are responsible, every time we go to court, we're responsible for proving that something has happened. And as you can imagine, a lot of those records that we rely on to prove these things are only available electronically, reasonably for us to achieve and go to court. So we have been able to go back and find paper copies of these things. That's a more painstaking process, and depending on how far back it goes, it can be difficult to track some of those down. So it does slow things down. We're still doing our work. We're still filing cases by paper, as you've said. And none of the cases are, going away or anything like that.
Are they delayed though?
They are delayed. Yeah.
Okay.
It's an unfortunate delay, generally across the board, is what we've been experiencing. My hope and what I'm hearing is that by early next week, those systems may be back online here in Shawnee County.
Has it made you lose ground in catching up from the COVID backlog?
That is
because that was still hanging out there.
Right. Anytime we have unexpected delays, it's frustrating for us and it slows down the process. It's frustrating because we have no control over this. Mm-hmm. We don't run that database system. It's like you said, it's a statewide system administered by the courts themselves. But we rely on those records in order to do our work. On
a broader impact, efficiencies aside, is there any concern that you have that this could have a broader impact on cases? Any concern over evidence being compromised or chain of custody being compromised as a result of this computer incident?
No, because we as the prosecutors, the state, we're responsible for maintaining that evidence, and it's our responsibility to make sure that we do that in a way that would not allow an incident like this to interfere. So for example, TPD and the Sheriff's Office, they have property rooms where they maintain physical evidence. The KBI is maintaining physical evidence for us. We have some physical evidence at our office, and our internal system in the DA's office was not compromised or affected by this at all.
Which is a bit of reassurance for those who might be concerned.
Absolutely.
Mike Kagay, Shawnee County District Attorney, appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Melissa.
The state's Office of Judicial Administration did announce this week that they hope to have those systems back online and up and running by the end of the year. They started bringing the courts back on this week. More will come online Monday, the 18th. That includes the 3rd Judicial District of Shawnee County. So we will be keeping you informed as we learn more about that continuing situation. Scammers tend to play Grinch this time of year. Of course, they're present year-round, but the holiday season just seems to give them more opportunities to try to take advantage of our good nature. John Wurzer is with AARP Kansas Fraud Watch Network. He visited to tell us what to watch out for. You're here to tell us what to look into. And you're in red, so you're not a Grinch.
No,
I'm in green.
Not.
Maybe that makes me the Grinch.
But I have been mistaken for Santa Claus.
Oh, that's good.
That was a scam.
No. Oh, no. And that is what we're talking about. How big of a problem are holiday scams?
That's right. Holiday scams are a huge problem. In this year's 2023 Fraud Watch Network survey, over 80% of people surveyed said that at one time or another in their life they've been a target of a holiday scam.
What are some of those common holiday scams we might see?
You've got online shopping scams, and you've got fake charities out there asking for your money. And the new fastest growing one is the shipping problem notification texts and emails that are going out.
So let's start with that one. What does that look like, and how can we tell that it's not quite
You'll
what it
get
seems?
something in your inbox that says there's a problem with a package being delivered, and that's really big this time of year. A lot of times it'll look like a Federal Express email, but it just says Express. Or it'll look like a UPS email, but there'll be a misspelled word in United Parcel. really don't click on them. If you think you have a package coming, find the tracking number and go to the website, because I have never had a package delivery problem that I've been notified with a message or an email like that.
What about shopping scams? How can we tell that something isn't a real website or isn't a real item?
You can't sometimes.
We can try. How can we try?
If you're to the point where you're on the website and you've never shopped there before, our best advice is to go to your favorite internet browser and type in, is Joe's StereoTurntables.com a legit website? And if you can't find anything about that website, go away. If it's been reported, you'll see a lot of negative comments. And if it's not rated up in the 85, 90% on what pops up from your search, go somewhere else. And if the price is really, really low,
It's probably
you're probably
too good
not
to be true.
getting a deal.
If the gift card scams, how do those even work?
Well, scammers go into department stores and they sneak gift cards off the rack, and they find a quiet corner and they scrape the thing off the back and they take pictures of the numbers on the back, and then they cover them back up. Then you buy your gift card and you give it to your daughter or granddaughter or son or son-in-law, and they get all the way up to the cash register with their $500 worth of new clothes, and they find out there's no money on that gift card anymore, because the scammers are watching it. They know when it's been registered. They go online and they clean it out.
So check to make sure everything is covered and not altered in any way.
The best advice is buy your gift cards online. But if you are going to buy them off the rack in the store, make sure that it's covered, first of all, and that it looks like the original covering, not something somebody tried to cover back up.
All very good advice. Where else can we go to keep from becoming a victim? Where can we find more resources?
At the AARP Fraud Watch Network website at aarp.org/fraud, there's all kinds of information on the latest frauds and scams. AARP has a free helpline. You don't have to be an AARP member to use any of this stuff. Our helpline is 877-908-3360. Or if you're a local community group and you want a volunteer like me to go out and give you a presentation, contact our state office and they'll set it all up for you.
Sounds like a plan. John, appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Melissa.
Always good advice and good reminders no matter what time of year it is. Topeka Mayor Mike Padilla has big issues on his plate along with the rest of city leaders. He took a little bit of time to visit and catch up on how they're doing with some of those top issues we've been talking about, including how the city is working to address homelessness. Mr. Mayor, welcome to you. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday to you.
We were together at the Red Stocking Breakfast on Saturday. It was a very good time.
It was a good crowd.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
There are so many things going on in the city. I do, though, want to touch on some developing news that happened today. The city's finance director, Freddie Mowen, was arrested for, in connection with domestic battery. I know you can't comment on specifics of the case, but what is the city's statement and stance on what is happening here?
Well, I think earlier that we put out a statement from the city. But basically, we're doing what we would do with anyone else in this situation. It's a personnel matter, and it's an ongoing investigation. So we will let that investigation continue, and we will see what comes of that investigation and move on from there.
And Mr. Mallion is on administrative leave while that continues, so I appreciate you at least
Yes.
acknowledging what is happening with that. Big issues heading into the new year, and one of them is going to overlap this year. The discussions regarding homelessness, I imagine, are going to continue. There was a camping ordinance that was going to take effect. Now we're just kind of gradually phasing it in. What is the status of that, and where do we go from here as we head into January and beyond?
Well, I'm glad you made that clear, that we are still doing something, phasing in some of the parts of that new ordinance, because I think people were under the impression we were waiting for recommendations from that consultant that we have and waiting until January, and we haven't been doing that. We've been moving forward with actions that are allowed in the old ordinance and actions that are allowed in the new ordinance to try and move the population to safer environment so that we are able to get a better hold of who we need to really help, who is that person that's most needy at the time. I think that's important.
And what is happening with that other part of the equation, getting them to a safer environment? Because one of the criticisms is it's one thing to tell them to move, but if they know where to move to, what happens to them? So
Well,
where are we giving them a place to move to?
We're working very closely with the Topeka Rescue Mission, and we're working with others who have plans that already have started for affordable housing, and that is where we're directing those people who want the housing, because there are some, even though we give them that opportunity, are resistant to that. But we're helping those who want that help and trying to get them in those safe places, especially before the cold winter gets here.
Economic development. Lots of little things have been happening. New owners for Westridge Mall. We keep seeing new stores announcing their opening. What is happening with the economic development picture for the city of Topeka? Do we have some announcements?
Well, we don't have any announcements right now.
I want one right now, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, but I can tell you that I'm very encouraged. The last time I visited with the Greater Topeka Partnership in Jetto, they have, I think conservatively, about 30 different projects that they're working on right now. And those projects really are developing at a pretty good rate. And I am pleased to see these small businesses, but there is some potential for some very large businesses to come to Topeka, because they see that we came through the pandemic in good shape. We didn't suffer as much as some cities our size. And that's, I think, because of the mix of commerce that we have in the city of Topeka. And so we really are encouraged for what's going to happen this next year.
What is the county's role in this, and how are the city and county working together? Because when you look at big parcels of land, Heartland Motorsports Park is going up to auction. So is there anything in the works for that property, and how do the city and county work together to make things happen, whether it be there or elsewhere?
I think that's a very good observation, because it really is an effort between the city and the county, because the city right now has a couple of efforts that you're aware of. The Topeka Hotel, for one.
Right.
And that's right next to a county-owned property, and it really is important for us to be on the same page. That development has to move forward together, because it can't be kind of a mishmash, kind of a concept. It has to be all put together, and I think that's the first opportunity for the city and the county to really show that they're interested in working together as a single purpose for the good of the Shawnee County residents and the city of Topeka.
How close is the city to selecting the next portion or the next step that's going to happen with the hotel?
Well, I was on a meeting just this morning, and we were getting the final updates from the asset manager to tell us exactly those kinds of improvements that need to be made, those health safety things that need to be made first, and then we're moving in that next step. But we're moving along very well, and I'm really encouraged, because sometimes people will take the approach that, well, that place has fallen down. I go down there. I encourage people, if they have the opportunity to go down there, it's not falling down. We just need to take care of it, and it'll make it a property that we'll really be proud of.
We'll see what kind of price tags might be associated with anything like that as we watch the January council agenda with two new members. Marcus Miller and David Banks will be joining in January. Mr. Mayor, thank you so very much.
Glad to be here.
Happy holidays. Two new council members will be joining the governing body at the start of the year, so we will see what forward progress happens once they have those new members on the panel. Of course, the holidays are a time that a lot of us try to celebrate and be merry, but it's also a time that can bring up a lot of mixed emotions for people. There are feelings of loss and grief, and we might tend to get sad when some of these traditions come up. So we invited Phelica Glass into the studio. We like to visit with her. She's a licensed clinical social worker. She's also a certified grief counselor. She shared some advice on how we can get through it. I think, first of all, Phelica, hi, first of all, hello to you. I think that's one thing to reassure people of. Is it okay to feel sad? Is it okay if we're not happy all the time?
Yes, I want people to be okay with being however they feel, right? So it is important that we are honest and open about what we feel, not feel like we have to stuff those feelings. I always say if we stuff it, it will eventually come out. So during the holidays, you don't have to be happy. It is absolutely okay to feel whatever you feel. I just ask people to not sit in it, but sit with it.
That makes sense, actually, when you think about it. You gave us several tips, and I put a few of them on a list so that we can kind of go through them, because, we feel so much pressure. And so the first one, experiencing the emotions, like you just said, and new traditions are okay. Explain that. We try to hold on so much and think that we're betraying somebody who's no longer with us.
Absolutely. So I think it's important that we remember that the traditions that we've made will continue to carry on with us, but it's absolutely okay to be accepting and open to creating new traditions that may involve new rituals of honoring the loved one and making them a part of those experiences. So one of the things I love to share is that in my losses, I have developed a memorial table in my home. So we honor all of our loved ones. People bring the cremains of their loved ones to holiday. We set them all up. We light candles and we honor them and take time to just talk about our story and our experiences. It's called, I always say it's great to share the memories, right? And so many times during the holidays, we tend to want to avoid talking about our loved one because it's going to make us sad or someone else sad. And I want you to know that it's okay to have sad moments through the holiday. It's okay if you feel like I just want to retreat. Whatever it is that you're feeling, it's okay to be honest and open with that and move forward using letting your feelings lead you, but don't get stuck in them, right? So when we talk about those traditions, creating new ones allows us to have new experiences to hold on to as we move into the future without that person here with us.
Those two things kind of overlap then. The new traditions, then also on that list was the sharing your experience, but right in between there is that it's okay to say no.
People aren't happy with me when I use that one.
But it's true. Everyone's like, we should do this, we should do this, we should do this. And before you know it, you're overwhelmed on top of the grief.
Yes.
How do we learn to say no?
So
and how do we know when we should say no?
Well, if it makes you feel uncomfortable, say no. If you really don't want to do it, say no. If it goes against the boundaries that you have in place for yourself, say no. I think it's important that we understand that during the holiday seasons, our number one answer doesn't have to be yes, because you don't have to suffer through the holidays by being in spaces with people or being in places that you're uncomfortable. It's absolutely okay to set the boundaries about what you will do for the holidays before we get to the holiday.
That's true. And no long explanation needed.
Because my number one rule is what? No is a complete sentence. It needs no other explanations.
And be true to you is the last bullet point I had there on that list. Be true to you. How do we know what is true to us?
So truthfully, it's about, can I look myself in the mirror and be okay with everything that I'm deciding to do during my holiday season? So if I wake up and I don't want to get out of bed today, it's okay to go back to bed. If I wake up and I want to go hang out, I want to laugh, I want to play, go do that too. It's about being honest with self and then looking ourselves in the mirror and saying, girl, are you okay with this? Yeah, I'm okay. All right, let's do it.
And I think if we self-reflect in the mirror or wherever,
That's right.
we know when it's maybe not the healthiest way and need to talk to someone like yourself.
If it doesn't feel genuine, right? So if we find ourselves in places where we're constantly having to fight to get through days, to get through events, experiencing that grief fog and thoughts and processing, it's time to see someone like me.
Always good. Felicia, we'll have your link, the Grief Counselor, on our website. Appreciate you being here.
Absolutely.
Always
Thanks
good
for having
reminders.
me.
Thanks.
No is a complete sentence. Love that advice from Felicia. I can remember that in many facets of our lives. So thanks, Felicia, for that visit, for that encouragement. Thank you for being with us and listening on the podcast this week. Remember, you can see videos from all these segments on WIBW.com. I also post them on my Facebook page, which is WIBW Melissa Bruner. While you're there, you'll see all our studio selfies that we take with our guests. And of course, you can find them, all of the segments from Eye on Northeast Kansas, on our YouTube channel, WIBW 13 News. Be sure to click subscribe while you are there. No matter where you are, no matter what you're celebrating, we hope you have a fantastic holiday season, and we wish you all the joy and love in the new year. Thanks for listening and taking time. Until next time, we'll see you on the Red Couch.